Well, it is once again time for weather with Nebraska Extension Ag Climatologist and Market Journal Chief Meteorologist Al Dutcher. Well, Al, the month of October is in the books. How are things looking as we're now into the month of November?
Well, Bryce, we did see some nicer temperatures earlier in the week and under some dry conditions, sunny skies, no winds, and then we seen the big trough coming in that was advertised last week. Came in about a day earlier than originally forecasted, but the same result. We've seen pretty good thunderstorm activity to our south, and then some of that left into eastern Nebraska. We did see some drier slots with this system, unfortunately, for the western part of the state. But we did get a pretty active storm system moving across the country, and we're still dealing with that. But before we get to the main forecast, I want to bring you an update of CPC's November forecast. From a preliminary now, they've issued their final forecast for the month, and the first thing we'll draw your attention to is above normal temperatures have been shifted toward the eastern United States, centered over the Great Lakes, and an introduction of below normal temperatures across the Pacific Northwest and the Northern Rockies has even been pulled farther toward the south. And in terms of precipitation, much more aggressive precipitation pattern across the western United States, and we've lost a signature of above normal moisture across the Ohio River Valley and the introduction of above normal moisture just to the south of us. So this indicates a more aggressive pattern, especially for the first 2 weeks of the month, and that's exactly what we're seeing with this first storm system, and we have many to come after it. So if we look at this upper air pattern for today, we're looking at the upper air low itself moving across Iowa and rapidly shifting toward the northeast. Then our attention will turn to the west with another trough coming into the region. So for today, light precipitation ending by the midday period across the east, maybe dealing with some cloud cover and cooler conditions, primarily in the 50s, where we do see some sunshine in the southwest, probably making up into the 60s. Now, as we go into the day tomorrow, as that trough lifts up, we'll see another piece of energy, the northern stream portion of this energy move toward the Great Lakes, stay north of Nebraska, so we'll probably be seeing a very tight temperature gradient. Most of the coolest conditions will be to our north. We'll actually probably make it into the low 60s across the southern part of the state. So going into Monday, this trough really starts to dig down the western United States coast. That's going to allow warming into our region, bringing our temperatures up across the state into the 60s, maybe even the mid to upper 60s across the southwest. By the time we get to Tuesday, trough starts to make a little bit of inroads into the southwest. Even warmer conditions and a little bit more moisture moves into our region in advance of this front. We're still going to be primarily in the 60s across the state with a potential in the southwest and south central to make it up into the low 70s. Now as we get into the day on Wednesday, we'll start to see this trough coming into the Rocky Mountains. So the first piece of energy starts to shoot out of this, maybe generating a few light sprinkles across the panhandle, maybe some light rainfall, but for the remainder of us, we should stay dry and warm. And then the real action starts to get into the game as we get into Thursday, as this trough starts to lift out into the plains, a lot of energy with it, deep moisture fetch, possibility that we will see some pretty significant moisture somewhere in the central plains. And right now, Nebraska is in that forefront of that forecast. We'll see if this changes. And then by the time we get into Friday, this system rapidly moves toward the Great Lakes. Look what's behind it, another big system. So 8 to 14-day forecast continues the trend of below normal temperatures with the next trough coming in terms of precipitation. We're right in the bullseye for another storm system as we get into early next weekend.